Ceylon team comprising of all the British people and all.
Yes. Just to say that cricket was introduced into Sri Lanka, Ceylon then, by the British military. You know, wherever the British troops went when they conquered us in 1796, wherever the British troops went, they carried their cricket gear. That was never missing from their military kit. So they first played cricket on a place called Rifle Green here, just across the lake. The military against the Colombo Cricket Club. That was in 1832, and everything at that time was, as things were, you can't expect anything else. It was dominated by the British. They controlled everything, and they first played cricket. They introduced cricket to the Sri Lanka Ceylonese, and the first people who took to cricket in Ceylon under the British were the Malays. Now the Malays came from Indonesia and from Malaysia. They came from Java. There was no Indonesia then, Java and Sumatra. They were the hired soldiers of the 97th Regiment of the British Army in Sri Lanka. They were closest to the British, so they played a lot of cricket here in Colombo and in Trincomalee and in Galle, because they had contingents at Galle for security purposes at all these places. Jaffna too, to a certain extent. Then the next to get involved in cricket were the next lot of people closest to the British. You know, we have different ethnic groups in Ceylon. One is the Burghers. Now there are very few of them. They were just like us Ceylonese. They had got into our lifestyles and just Ceylonese, and you can say Ceylonese and nothing else. The Burghers were very close to the British because they were the descendants of the Dutch, and the British, you know, anyone coming in new will trust someone whom they think could be given authority. They took in a lot of Dutch burghers, as they were not, were taken in into the government service, and they started playing cricket. Then after the Malays formed the club in 1872, the burghers, they formed a club in 1873 called the Colts CC, and all clubs at that time were based on ethnic groups. Colts first, then came the Bloomfield, which was still exists, a very old standing club, which was the first non-ethnic club. Then the Tamil Union, the Tamils, the ethnic club. Then the Moors, the ethnic clubs in 1909, you know, like that. Then the Parsis, and Parsis, they had a team like that. The British introduced this to all these communities, and they played cricket even in Trinco. The first matches were played by the Englishmen. Every team, this English club, premier English club, was the Colombo Cricket Club in Silman Gardens, which still exists today. That's it. They played their first match in 1832. They were like the border control. You know, they laid down the rules. They organized the matches with the English people and the Englishmen and the Australians, and later the New Zealanders, because most of the Englishmen who were here and the huge planting community up country, all Englishmen who manned the estate were from the public schools. That, the burghers,
about the British, high country plantation British.
Yeah, with all the estate plantations, tea plantations, which even today is a beautiful sight, were manned by Englishmen, the vast majority of who were educated in English public schools and who had played cricket in England. So there were two European clubs in the upcountry, at Hatton, at Dharawala, beyond Hatton, known as the DMJC.
But my next question is that if cricket was being played for so many years, how come it took time for Sri Lanka to get into the mainstream?
Well, that circumstances, in the sense that, you know, we didn't. Circumstances in the sense that the Ceylonese hadn't the finances, they hadn't the organization. It was all controlled by the British up to 1922, when the Ceylon Cricket Association was formed by another one whom we have to, give all the credit, because he spent his own money going to England to persuade the English people to give us a match, when they're passing through and the rest of it. He was the first president. Dr. John Rockwood was a Tamil. He did an immense amount of work, and he got so many Indian teams to come to Ceylon to play cricket. In fact, he got the Maharaja Kumar of Vijayanagara. He is from somewhere.
Yeah.
Maharaja Kumar is from up north, somewhere Bengal side. He captained the All India team to England in 1932. He brought a team here with the famous cricketers, English cricketers, Jacobs and Herbert Sutcliffe, and did a 2 weeks tour, I think, at the request of Dr. John Rockwood.
So you were saying that the cricket was, there was talent,
Yeah.
and there were local people
Yes.
also playing cricket, but it took some time for Sri Lanka to come on
Get organized. They took time to get organized and to form an association. Now, when Dr. John Rockwood went to England and told there was no ICC but the MCC about Sri Lanka, his first thing is, Doctor, form a cricket association, a governing body, not an association maybe, the governing body. So that governing body, as years went by, the clubs got organized, more clubs came into cricket, more schools started playing cricket. Earlier it was Royal, St. Thomas's, St. Joseph's, Wesley, Trinity, and then Mahindra and Richmond from colleges from Gaul. Trinity College was in Kandy. Beyond that, there were hardly any schools playing cricket. So as years went by, more schools started, the organization became better, and the Cricket Association made applications to the MCC, but to allow us into the mainstream, but not very much notice was taken till 1945.
Don't even change the magnification.
Yeah, Ronnie. Good channel, yeah, we know.
Okay? Yeah, so we're talking about
Dr. John Rockwood. Then I missed out a name, sorry. The first Englishman who did much for the young Ceylonese cricketers is a gentleman who first got the English team to come here, George van der Spa, who was a businessman in Gaul. He is the one who gave the young schoolboy cricketers, Ceylonese, their chance of playing for All Ceylon, because he selected the All Ceylon team, along with the CCC, who had a big say. And the match up to 1890s was played on the very premises where this hotel is sited, Taj Samudra. And in front of you is the oldest Colombo club. It was known as the Colombo Club for the bridge playing and billiard playing British mercantile sector employees. So when Van der Spa started this, introducing the Sri Lankan schoolboys to the All Ceylon team in 1894, that was another step forward. Then came 1922, the Ceylon Cricket Association. Then more clubs, from the older clubs that I mentioned, more clubs, new clubs started coming in during wartime. In war, our cricket virtually came to a standstill, because this was a big bastion for the British troops. There were about 100,000 troops, British, Australian, West African, East African, Indian. All the countries had their troops here at that time, because the British had to defend Ceylon to save, which was a strategic position.
And
So
why do you think, what do you attribute this success to? They came on the international scene very late.
Yeah.
And even then, within a few years, they managed to get the World Cup.
Yeah.
What was the feeling that time?
It is due to the hard work put in by the border control for cricket and the cricketers themselves. Earlier it was 1 day, half-day matches. When I told you, when my father was playing, half Saturday. Then it was extended to 1.5 days. Then it was extended in the 50 to 2 days and to 3 days in 1967, which was the standard that the International Cricket Council wanted. So like that, the border control, after they came into being in 1948-49, also went along with this and paid a lot of attention to extending the hours of play, which brought the Sri Lankan players more into line with this thing. They learned to build their stamina for a 3-day match, which is different to playing half a day or 1.5 days. So the Board of Control did a lot of work, groundwork in helping Sri Lanka to build the base. And in 1981, Mr. Gamini Dissanayake stepped in. In between, Mr. Robert Senayake was the president. He was the son of the first Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Senayake. Mr. Robert Senayake himself had been to play Cambridge and had played in the Cambridge trials, good cricketer. He played for the Sinhalese Sports Club. He was president for 17 years. He did much to tell you, he did that all without asking anything, but giving from his pocket to get the teams here. The dinners was to farewell dinners to the visiting team was held at his house. You see, there was no, like that John F. Kennedy said, do not ask, but America can do for you, but do what you can for America. That type of thing was done by him. And so, like that, gradually we came into the 4-day match in 1981 with Mr. Gamini Dissanayake. Just, other means, all the board officials were honorary officials. They did not get any payment. It is only very recently that a board official got payment.
So to talk about the cricket, the game of cricket, basically, did anybody in Sri Lanka believe that Sri Lanka can win this World Cup, 1996?
No. We didn't believe we could win it, but as I tell you, I can tell you the development. The Board of Control started getting the world's best known test cricketers as coaches for our Sri Lanka team. Garfield Sobers, Larry Constantine, then many others like Peter Philpott, and you find so many others who have come in recent years, Graham Mackenzie. They all helped to did the coaching. You see, 3-4 months, even before the first World Cup, we had Graham Mackenzie living here, and the team practiced in the plantation area in the cold weather to get used to it. So the board brought those cricketers and coached them up to a point where we played limited over cricket, also up to standard in world cricket. That was in the 1970s, 80s. We didn't believe that we could win the World Cup, but somehow dedication on the part of the coaches, the Board of Control, and the cricketers themselves carried us to that final end.
So what was your personal reaction when the Sri Lanka won the World Cup?
What can I say? Well, I can say to myself, well, they have done it. It was a surprise which pleased us all. They did something for the country which, I must say, even the politicians could not do. They gave us that publicity worldwide. Then I told you about Mr. Gamini Dissanayake. He did so much. He built the infrastructure, all the new venues. He enlarged them. He got the board a new headquarters. Everything possible he did. And finally, it was the World Cup. But unfortunately, he passed off 2 years before. He was not there to see Sri Lanka gain this honor. And sometimes I feel emotional when I speak of him because he helped me so much. Then, after the World Cup, we maintained that standard for some time. And now we have to rehabilitate Sri Lanka with the younger players coming in. You find that every team needs rebuilding. Even the Australians have done rebuilding by getting 2 sets of players, one for the test team, one for the limited over matches, which are, although only 50 overs, which need a lot of hard work and nimble limbs. You must be nimble, run fast, run. So the changes have to come as the years go by. So what
Okay, you can talk.
this I should not forget, it is the older schools like Royal College, St. Thomas's, Trinity, St. Joseph's, Wesley, Mahindra, Richmond, and schools like that were built almost 100 years ago. But then after we got independence, a free education scheme was launched by the then government, and most of the village schools, boys who have never seen a game of cricket in Colombo but would have played cricket, bat and ball with a tennis ball, took to cricket. And I have given prominence to all those schools, and there is a thing very unique to Ceylon, which is called a big match. Now Royal plays its big match against St. Thomas's because they are the two oldest schools. Then the two oldest Catholic schools play a big match. The two oldest Buddhist schools, Ananda and Nalanda, play a big match. Ananda was also amongst the big schools, but in 1893 they came into being, but they didn't play cricket with the big schools at that time. They started playing about 1909. So I have given prominence to the small schools who now play big matches. They have their own big matches in the provinces, selecting the big school in the next province, or the big school in the older schools in their province, that type of thing. That has also helped in the development of the game because there's more enthusiasm. And although there's enthusiasm, one factor sort of dampens things, but that also has been overcome. In the sense that damping means cost of cricket gear is far in excess of what those village boys can afford to. But for that, Mr. Gamini Sanayaka formed the Sri Lanka Cricket Foundation in the 1980s. They do funding. So does the border control. They also give a lot of help to them. You know, they have opened up so many cricket grounds. They have trained so many coaches, the two institutions. They have opened up new venues. Various things done by the cricket board and the foundation to develop the game. That's how we have reached this peak. So we can't go downhill. We can only stay at this level. We have now come to the top. Now we have beaten Australia also in a series for the first time. We have step by step but to maintain this, it means a lot of effort, and I think the effort is coming from the younger cricketers, the younger Sri Lankan cricketers who are now playing Test cricket. Excuse me, before I forget, there was a time when the Sri Lankan cricket team was composed of only players from the big schools, which I remember, Royal Trinity, St. Thomas's and the rest of it. Now, to tell you how much development there is, half the Sri Lanka team is from schoolboys who come from the provinces, and that in itself is a great achievement.
And one more misbelief or a misconception is that earlier the boys used to play only football. You've also written a book on football, rugby football. So is it that the cricket has taken over football as a game?
No, it's a myth. Even in the early years, I'm sorry to say, there is a book written in 1894 by an Englishman on tourism. You know this Christchurch behind this Taj Samudra? It was a big park. There was a park there. There is a picture of boys playing cricket at that time, but there is no picture of schoolboys playing football. Football was introduced quite late. It is cricket that was played everywhere in the villages with tennis ball and bat. They didn't use a leather ball, they couldn't use it. Gradually when the big schools, now even the village boys went to those big schools. And from that, the leather ball was introduced to the villages where now they have their own grounds and play some sort of leather ball cricket. So it would be wrong, I think, to say that the Ceylonese were playing football. But we did have a very good football side, All Ceylon football team in the 1930s. But now that game has dropped off a bit.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
I hope I have given you enough of material.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah, Rolex. So you're going to this match. When did this test match start? On first?
Yes, 30th.
30th. So today is what, 4 days?
Yes, tomorrow is the last.
What is the kind of score this time?
There's nothing, there's no say. Yeah. So if they can get us to bat the whole day, they might win. Because the pitch is
soft.
Which is good for then
Good. So I can't speak bowlers can make
Good.
something later.
Rolling.
The drainage from the ground to the main road is very poor. So it takes a long time to drain.
Can I give you a glass of water? Water, water?
Got it. Roll. You're rolling.
Let us say I had that. Order control will be done මාතෘ කියන්නේ කලිසමට නම්බුයි දැන් කැටවච්ච මම මොඩ විදිය 65 නම් කොමිටිය ඕ අපිට සල්ලි දෙන්න මම 60 වත් අපි
Can you read? फक्त close my इटलो आवश्यक है चाल.
Rolling.
ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඔක්කොම මැච්
Oh, yes.
තාමත් කාලෙක
Got it. Rolling. Got it.
Parliament is
I have taken all the
Yes.
teams there,
I
and
see.
they enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yes. We also were covered that. अपना बॉम्बे नंबर का है
102. Yogeshwari.
प्राइस नंबर 90.
Chamandi,